Welcome to my channel and welcome to my website. My name is Daryl and this is Programming in Any Language. The website is www.black-duck.com. It's where you'll find all my videos organized in a logical order. Way back when, we learned how to read and write a file. The key element of doing that was the loop. And the last time we learned how to step through an array. Again, the key element of doing that was the loop. This next piece ought to be a piece of cake. We're going to use a loop to read and write a file, as well as read and write an array. Anything we need to worry about? Yeah, there's a few things. For the file, we have to make sure we detect end of file. We know how to do that. For the array, we need to make sure we don't go beyond the bounds of the array. Well, we won't in this example. We'll keep the input file small so we can learn to process the array, the file rather, to the array without a whole bunch of extra stuff. Let's give this a shot. Okay, we're going to work with files and arrays, and it's kind of simple. It's not too bad. You've done the arrays piece, the files piece before, where you step through files, you open files, close them, those kinds of things. And you also worked with arrays in the past. You've been able to step through them with loops. You've got all that concept down. We're going to marry the two together now and take a loop at that. On the screen right now, what I've got here is I've got basically how to write the array's contents to a file. And here's the code. Basically, it's a very simple structure. We'll do this in a program shortly. First, I have an integer array called numbers. And inside that array is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. 5 numbers. We set up the stream right. You got to remember to do that because we're working with files again. So we're going to create an output file. The output file is going to be file create text values.txt is going to be the name of the file. It's going to be in the bin debug folder because we haven't established any other place to put it. So it's going to go with our file. That's probably a good idea to do it that way. But then use the loop. Int index equals 0. Index is less than the number's length. The length of the array, and we increase the counter. And we end up writing the contents of that array each time we go through the loop to the output file. And we close the file, and we're all done. So very straightforward, very simple to do as we're going forward. Reading a file is not that different either. If we're going to look at that, we set up something about the size of the array. Here's another array of numbers, set up to be size 5. We're opening it up right now. There's nothing in it. We set up our index to be 0. We set our stream reader up to input file. And we set our input file up to read open test values.txt. We're reading the same file we just wrote a few minutes ago in the other slide. And we use a while loop. A while. This is important. Well, index is less than the number's length. In other words, less than the size of the array. And also, we're not at end of stream. Because we certainly want to do that. So if we're heading a stream, we're going to stop. If our file gets too big and it exceeds the size of the array, we're going to stop. Otherwise, we'd crash. Our numbers at index, whatever the index is, this is going to be increasing. We started with a 0 on here, and we parse the file and bring it in to that numbers 0. We increment the index 1. Keep doing this over and over again until we get to end of stream, or we exceed the length of the array. And we close the file. That's really straightforward. That's all it is, all there is to it. I used this slide back when we were working with files, learning how to use them, and it's important to bring it up now to just remind you. There's always 3 pieces. There's that open file piece, and there's that close file piece, and then there's the processing that's in between. So this is the place where your array is going to be worked on. It's in the process records piece right here. So you're working with that. Otherwise, it's the same. You open the file, you close it. Make sure you do that, and you're all set to go. We're going to use something called a form that's going to do things for us. It's going to basically we're going to take a text file with a bunch of names in it, and we're going to load it to an array. The array is going to be a size of 100. We're going to establish that right away, and we're going to read a small file. It's only going to have 9 records or so in it, and it's going to actually go into here. We're then going to create a button to read that array and place it in the list box so we can see what our contents were, so that we're sure what we have there. Then we're going to write 2 applications. One's going to save the actual array to a text file. So we're going to have basically 9 elements in there. We're going to read that array again and write that back out to a file without reading the entire contents of a 100 element array. We're also going to do one where we're going to save all the elements in the array, all 100, to a file and take a look at that. So we'll be good to see all this stuff and how it actually works. And of course, the exit button will exit this thing out. So fairly straightforward stuff is what we're going to be doing. So let's go ahead and give this thing a try. What I've got in front of me right now is a small application that we're going to create. We're going to go ahead and create some labels on here and build this thing. And we're going to use labels, of course, right away. So we're going to take our first label, and we're going to go down to our property section, and we're going to say this is true length of the array is, and we'll stop right there, and that's going to be what it is. We're going to set the font on this thing to be something we can see. Make it bold, make it 12, and it looks pretty good. We'll put this off to the side over here. We're going to also go ahead and make a copy of this and place it right underneath, but we're going to change the wording on this one to be actual number of elements. How many we're actually putting out there. That's what that's going to look like. We'll kind of line these up so they're together. It looks pretty good. We're then going to create two text boxes, or labels, I should say, output labels. Did I get that one? There it is. Label 3, there it is. And we'll put it right over here. And we're going to go ahead and change the properties in this thing to be auto size off. Make it a little bit smaller. Let's put in the number 100 in here just to see what it's going to look like. And let's go ahead and change the font on this thing too to be bold and be a 12. That looks pretty decent. I'll kind of line it up right here with this guy. We can make it even a little smaller because we're never going to have anything larger than 100 coming into it. So that looks pretty good. We're also going to, I want to put a border on this so I can see it when I don't have anything in it. And so I'll make my border style fixed single. I'll then close this thing off and get rid of that 100. I don't need this anymore. And we'll make a copy of this label and put it right below here so we can also establish and say what the actual number of elements are. What I'm going to do is I'm going to name this guy LBL, label array size. And this one is going to get named LBL actual elements. And that'll put that in place. So that's going to be just fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a button. And that button is going to be a load button. So I'll put in the word load in here. And I'll change this font to bold. Make it a 12. Size it up a little bit better so we can read that load in there. That's in there. And we're also going to name it button load. And we'll make a copy of it and create our exit button. And button exit will be the name that we'll use for this thing in code. That kind of gets us started now. What we want to do now is we want to go up to we want to go into our coding window. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my Solution Explorer and open up my coding window and take a look at it, which it should be empty. It is empty. I want to start setting up my global area right now. We're going to still use global variables, things of that nature, so that we don't get confused on passing things yet. We'll cover that in another video where we're going to learn how to pass arrays and methods. But right now we're going to go down to this our actual class here and put in our global area. So we're going to say global area. And right where we're going to go ahead and say int number of elements, and close that off. And this is going to be it's going to holds actual number of filled elements in the array. In other words, if we put real data in this array, those elements that have that real data will be counted in this particular variable. So we read 9 records, and we'll know there's 9, even though the array is 100. We're also going to go ahead and step over here, and we're going to create a max. This is going to hold the actual size of the array. And then we're going to set up a string array. So we're going to do a string, put it in our brackets, and we're going to say my guys. And we're going to say equals new string, and this array is going to be 100. Holds 100 string values, 0 through 99. And that pretty much does what we want in our global area there. So that's going to cover it for us. So the next thing I want to do is I want to go out to my form here and write my exit button. Do that right away first, and we'll just say close form. And this dot close. And that closes our form for us. So we're all set there. The next thing we want to do is actually read this file. So we're going to do a button load here. We're going to go down to the button load and click on it and create our variable, our button event. And we're going to say int x equals 0. And this is going to be, I think we can get rid of the toolbox now. We don't need this anymore. Oh, we will need it a little bit, but that's okay. We'll give us more room to work with our comments. We put them in here. So this is going to be a counter variable. We're also going to set up the stream writer now. It's a stream reader, and we're going to call it input file. Now this is going to activate stream reader. And you can see it's not doing a very good job, but actually it is doing a very good job right now. Stream reader. Oh, it's System.io is in here. That's interesting. I didn't realize it was in here already, but it is. It's been created. So this is actually what we needed in here. If you don't have it in your program, you'll certainly want to put this in here. Needed for stream reader and stream writer. So if you don't have that in there, and it isn't necessarily there, you'll need to put it in order for this to work. If this were commented out, for example, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see an error there. So we want to get that, make sure we have that in place, and put that using System.io in there so this thing works. So we're now looking at the stream writer is sitting there ready. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do input file is equal to file.open text, and we're going to name it my guys.txt. That's the name of the text file we're actually going to have in here, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Oops. And we're going to say while x is less than max and not input file that end of stream, we can do our thing. And what is that? We put braces up and create our loop, the body of our loop. And we'll say my guys dot x is equal to input file read line. We're going to read the line of data, put it in my guys, whatever x happens to be, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to say x is equal to x plus 1. That increments x, and we're all set. So that's all you really need to read the data from the file that we're looking at. Let me go ahead and show you what the file looks like. I'm going to go into my folder of files and arrays, the one we're creating right now. Go into this piece, find my bin folder and my debug folder, and which is going to be empty right now, but I'm going to place a file here. So there it is, myguys.txt. It's going to look like this. I'll open it up, and it looks like this. It's got a few things in it, and I believe it ends right at this point. There's nothing else in here. There's Daffy, Bugs, Porky, Petunia, Sylvester, Yosemite, Elmer, Foghorn, and Taz. And those are the pieces we're going to actually read into our file. So that's what it looks like. I'm going to close this off. We're going to leave this alone. I'm going to go ahead and move this out so we can look at that file later. We're going to need this to look at this thing later, so I'll grab it later and piece it together. So what have we got so far? We got this thing ready to go. Now, one thing we haven't done, we opened our file, we did our processing on the file, and now we need to close the file. So right here we're going to say input file dot close. And that closes it up. I could also say right here that we're read a line of data, and right down here I'll say increment counter. That's what we're actually doing there. Now, the other one I want to remember we created this variable up here called int number of elements, which has nothing in it. It has the actual number of elements here. I want to go ahead and fill that right now. So I'm going to say that my int number of elements is equal to x. And that's going to display my count. I'll do right down here. I'll go ahead and LBL actual number of elements dot text is equal to x. X to string. You could do either thing. You could actually take the number of elements, or you could put x in there, whatever you want to do. We're saving this, and we could actually, either one of these would work in here, and it'd be fine. So let's see if this thing works right now. We might have some errors. So let's go ahead and check and see what this actually does. We're bring out the program and try to run it. And it comes up with the total length of array is this, and nothing else is showing here. We can click on this, and we get a 0 in here. So it didn't really read any elements. We can't find out what those are. So we need to find out what our little problem is when we actually get into this thing. So we're going to go ahead and hit exit on this. And one thing we want to do in this program is, because we are actually reading the file, we want to set some things up. So in our initialize components area right here, under that, we want to do some things that are going to help our program a little bit. So one of them is going to be setting up that max is equal to my guys dot length. So we didn't have that established. We've ever read nothing at this point in time. So this is going to help us there. We'll call this thing get max size of array. I could have used the length down here to read it, because notice I'm using max right in here, but it hasn't been established. We didn't put any numbers in here. So what I could have done was put the array length in here, and would have worked. This didn't, but this, by putting this in here, it does work. So we actually have that here. If we go ahead and do a file save, and we do a run now, and do a load, we're getting a 9. So it's actually reading the file at this point in time. But there's nothing here telling us what the true length of the array is. We need to put that in place as well. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And I want to say that my LBL array size dot text is equal to max to string. This will display the size of the array. Remember, it's my guys at length. It's the entire length here. Do a file save on this thing and start it up. Now we're showing the 100. If we load our characters in, we have 9 sitting in there. So that seems to be just fine. Great. Next thing we'd like to do is kind of display those things. We can't see them. We'd like to show what they are. So for the heck of it, we're going to go ahead and add something to our toolbox. I'm going to go ahead and view my toolbox again. And then I'm going to go ahead and get my form up. And I'm going to add a list box to this thing, just so we got some visibility of what's going on over here. I'm going to go ahead and call this thing LBX array. And we're going to change the font on this thing to bold and 12. And then we're going to go ahead and we actually create a button, which is going to be Fill LBX. So I'm going to grab this button right here and put it over here. We're going to make the name of this guy Fill LBX. That seems to fit in there nicely. Going to give it a name that we can use in code. And that'll be button fill list box. And that's ready to go. So let's go ahead and do that thing. Let's go ahead and actually fill that list box. And it's fairly straightforward. We can just go right into it. And we'll simply say for int x equals 0, I equals 0, let's make it I equals 0. I is, see, my guy's length is what we could use here. And let's just go ahead and put that in. We can actually do that. And we'll go ahead and create this. And we'll then just simply say LBX array dot items dot add my guy's I. That's all we have to do to bring those into the array. And that will do it for us. That actually completes the loop that would actually add those elements. What I do want to do is, since we're using max, I'm going to change this. Instead of my guy's at length, I'm going to just change this to max. It just shortens it up a little bit better. So now let's go ahead and do this. File, save all, and let's do a run. Our 100 shows up. That shows our array size has already been established at 100. We'll read those elements. We're reading 9 elements in there. And let's put them in the list box. It blows up on us. Why did it blow up? It doesn't like the fact we have null values in our array. We did this, I think, in the last video, where I actually put something into the array before I actually use it. We need to do that here. Since we have the array there, it doesn't like the fact there's nothing there. There's null values. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get back out. And I'm going to go back up to this area up here, the initialize components area. And what we're going to do in here, we're going to create a loop that's going to fill this array. Since it's right at the beginning, we're beginning at the beginning of the program. We're going to fill it with nulls or something. So we have something in there that's actually in there. So I'm going to say for I equals 0. Well, I is less than max. I increment. Go ahead and put this in place. And we're going to say my guys I is equal to quote quote. That's going to put some nulls in for us. Now this should work. Oh, I also want to do one more thing. I'm going to take that last one we're doing there, and I'm going to put in my guys my guys 99, the very, very last element. I want to put in end of file. For demonstration purposes, we're going to do this. So we're going to put that piece in the very, very end of this thing. So we'll go ahead and do a file save on it. And we'll do a start. And again, our 100 shows up. We do our load. It shows up 9. We do the fill list box. And bang, it fills the list box. So one thing's interesting here. Look at our little cursor down here at the side. All our guys are here. If we start to scroll down, we can see all the blanks are in there. In that array, because we have 100 elements in this array. And the very last one is called end of file, which is the thing we put in there. So this is the 100th element, or element number 99, since we go 0 through 99, is actually sitting in there kind of identifying that. I didn't have to put that in there, but it just kind of shows us what it is. So that's the extent of it. That's what this thing looks like. So what do we do now? Well, it'd be nice to kind of save all this stuff, wouldn't it? So let's go ahead and try to do that. I'm going to go ahead and create another button called Save Actual. So we'll go to our form design here, make a copy of this guy, and put them here. And we'll call this one save actual. This is probably really going to screw up our, yeah, all we can see is save. We're going to make that a little bigger so we can actually see it. There it is. It's now showing up there. And we can name this guy button btn save actual. This is going to save just the elements that we have put in our array, just the elements that have something in them, not those nulls we're seeing on there. But let's go ahead and go a little further on this thing and create one more button. Let's make a copy of this and call this one save all. Maybe what I can do with this is kind of make all of these their own size so they fit their words. Load can be a little smaller. Save actual is going to have to be big. Exit can be a little smaller. Save all can be smaller. We need to give this a name in code, by the way. btn save all. And now we can maybe move these guys together here. So let's just kind of, what would I just do? Just lose one? There it is. He's sitting over here. Let's go ahead and grab all these guys, format them, align their tops, let's align their bottoms. That looks good. Let's make their horizontal spacing equal. That's looking a little bit better. And let's center them on the form horizontally. Looks a little better. Let's bring them down a little bit with our cursor. That's looking pretty good. We got our buttons in there. At least they're in place now. Do a file save so we got them. I'm going to go ahead and code this save actual button now. What I want to do is I want to save just the elements that are in our that are actually alive in our array. So I'm going to go ahead and do this by clicking on the save actual button, which gives me my code. And I'm going to go ahead and create a str string str dummy. And this is going to hold its output value. I'm going to go ahead and say that my stream writer output file. And that'll activate StreamWriter. And then I'm going to say my output file is equal to file.createText called save guys .text. I need to put quotes around this thing. I didn't do that. We'll do that real quickly right here. There, that's much happier now. So we go ahead and create the output file. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use a loop to actually do this. So we're going to say for int I is equal to 0, I is less than max, I plus plus, and set our brackets up. And then I'm going to say output file is closed, and a message box dot show, and we'll say saved guys dot text has been created, letting the user know that we did something. And we'll end up with a semicolon here. Okay, so we're looking good here. We got an error here. Why do we have an error here? It's a 32 sign integer. I don't know why we have this here. I expected a bracket. Yeah, got to have this. There we go. That's in there. Okay, so now we've got our loop set up here. And I'm looking at max. I don't want to do max. What I want to do is I want to do just the elements we have here. And if you remember, back when we saved this thing, int number of elements is equal to x. We actually saved this particular thing. So instead of looking at this, I want to say as long as it's less than int number of elements, and we'll be good there. And then we can actually say that we want to go ahead and say str dummy is equal to my guys. We don't need to do the string because we're not, yeah, we're just, my guys, just put a semicolon here, we're done with that. No, I didn't like that at all. Let's see if I can do an undo on that. Get back to where we were, because I just want this to be here. We want to say semicolon, there we go, and we can virtually get rid of this. Much better. String dummy equals my guys dot I. That should work. Str dummy looks right. And then we'll go ahead and actually say output file. Dot right line str dummy, and that puts it in place. I could have just used my guy's I in this line and made it a one-liner. I tend to like to go ahead and put my elements into a dummy variable that I can look at, so I can examine this thing much easier with debugger if I have a problem, and then I can actually write that out. So I'm really taking two steps: taking what's in the array, putting it in a variable, and then I'm taking that variable and writing it out. I could have easily just put my guys down here, right line, my guys with the I in there, and would have done the same thing for us. But it does help debugging. It does help clarify what I'm looking at when I have problems with my program. So I like to do it this way. This is going to work for us. So we're going to go ahead and do a file save. And what's happened here now is we can actually run this program, and it's going to save just my guys. So we're going to go ahead and examine that. We'll do a run. We're going to go ahead and load the data. We'll fill the list box so it's there. All this stuff is there. You see that? We're going to save actual now. And it says save guys has been created. Okay, good. Okay, let's go ahead and see if that actually did happen. I did save that folder, which I'll bring over here. And we do have the save guys is sitting right here. So I'm going to open this guy up. And there it is. Save guys is sitting right there. And if we look at it, we can't go down any further. It's just saving the guys through Daffy, through Taz, and nothing else. Now we're going to make a change to this. Let's go ahead and put this thing up here. And let's go to our program. And we'll go ahead and write the code for saving all. We'll go down here. And the nice thing about this is we can grab everything from up here, replicate it, and the only difference we have to make is we have to change this thing to max. And look at the whole file that we're actually dealing with there. So that's going to save everything in the file. So let's do a file save on this. Let's do a start. We'll do the same kind of run again. We'll go ahead and load it. There's our 9. We'll fill this box. We've got it here. We can see everything is there again, all the way down to the end of file thing. We're going to save all this time. We'll go ahead and do that. Save guys has been created. We're now going to take a look at that file, which I've got right up here. And we'll do a open it up. There it is. We have more on here? Yes, we do. If we scroll down, all the way down to the end of file is showing now. So everything was saved by using the max and looking at the array size and doing that. Otherwise, we used a counter to establish how many elements we actually had in there, and we stopped at that point in time. So how you want to do it is how you're going to actually write this program and make it work. But that's really all there is to it. To writing a file or reading a file, it's fairly straightforward. You just got to remember to use your opens, your closes on the file name, and you're going to be good there. Use a counter for your array. We'll do a little more of this coming forward. Take a look at an array where we can start bringing in data that we can add, look for the high, low values, things of that nature, and do some operations on it. That'll be next. Great. Yes, there's one big flaw in this program. What if the input file had 150 items in it? This program will blow up sky high when the 100th record is read. I'll show you how to check for that in the next video. For now, what you have seen is the basic way you can read data into an array, and also how you can read an array and save that data to a file. We'll expand on this as we learn more. This is a good start though. Going forward, we'll use files and arrays for a lot of other things. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to use the website for easy access to all my videos. If you get a chance, please subscribe. That way you'll be notified when something new is available. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.